Go.
It has come into our lives with lots of anticipation and attention from Samsung themselves. Daniel here from SamMobile TV. Today, I want to review Galaxy AI and see if it's actually effective and all of the features are actually useful. So we've covered Galaxy AI here on the channel pretty extensively. We've done deep dives into the singular features, we've done full videos, and even looked at it now that it's on the S23 Ultra. But what we haven't done is review it. We've demonstrated it, focused on specific features, but we have not covered actually their effectiveness in day-to-day lives. So we're going to go through the functions again, but this time with a focus on their effectiveness and usefulness in the course of a daily use case. Let's start with the photo editor inside the gallery. So what I really love about generative edit is the power and the flexibility it has in editing the photo. Object eraser was good, especially when they brought in the shadow eraser and the reflection eraser, but it was always just using local onboard intelligence to remove objects from the photo. What the generative edit is doing is it's removing stuff and then using AI to generate a new part from what has been removed. It makes the photo look more natural, if you ask me, instead of just smoothing over what was removed originally. Things like resizing stuff in the photo, things like adjusting the angle of the photo and then filling in the gaps, things like then just removing things altogether. These functions make it very useful to me. I don't use it every day, but there is times when I definitely need it, and having the tools available make it very functional. A lot of what you can do in here normally requires pretty powerful hardware, whether that be a computer with a big GPU or whether that be dedicated software. But having Galaxy AI and this function means you don't need any of that. You can do it more quickly on your phone. Generative wallpaper, which I'll throw in as like a similar thing as part of this, has been less useful to me. Can certainly appreciate the idea of it, but myself personally, I really like, as a family man, using wallpapers of my family, whether it be my wife or my kids. That is my use case for wallpapers. I don't really have a need for the generative wallpaper stuff. Yeah, I might find one in the future. So the generative edit, absolutely useful. The wallpaper one, not so much. Let me know if you've used either of them in the comments. When I first heard about the keyboard functions, I was over the moon excited. But in execution, I haven't found it as useful as I was hoping it to be in my life. The translate one is really, really good to have. I actually would have found this more useful had it come in 6 months earlier. I'd just been to Italy for 2 weeks and I'd actually stayed with family in Milan, and it would have been so useful to be able to converse with them, especially as they were sort of driving us around and taking us places through WhatsApp, to be able to just type it directly in English and have it live translate into Italian, instead of having to use the very arduous task of Google Translate, copying and pasting. That was a little bit tedious. So if I get in that situation again, and I am going overseas, I might use that. The other two features, the part of the keyboard, I haven't even thought about it. I know they are there, but for me personally, it's been quicker to fix a spelling and grammar mistake myself than it is to remember that that AI function exists by clicking on the button, then clicking on spelling on grammar, and then waiting for it to generate the new options. Whereas I can just quickly backspace and fix it myself without having to worry about that extra step. The writing style, the one that composes messages in a different sort of format for you, again, I love the idea of it, and I've definitely used it once or twice when I remember it's there, but not enough to change my texting habits and the way I compose messages. I consider myself quite good at explaining things with words, so I haven't felt the need to dive into that if I want to change my tone specifically. Functionally, these features work really good, as you can see with the demos that are overlaying me talking. It's just, I haven't found the need for them yet in my life. Because I technically have no issues with it, it's my own personal issues. What Samsung could, and I'm saying could, they don't have to do this, they could pop up with a prompt to let you know that this service can rephrase this sentence for you and show you an example of that. Hey, if you're meaning to this to be a little bit more casual, this is what that might look like, and offer you the replace button straight away instead of having to then dig through the settings or dig through the AI toolbar to remember it's there. That way you can develop the habit, because that's what it is. It's basically a habit of remembering that it exists. Samsung Notes is one that I've used considerably, but not in the way you might think, or maybe. I don't know how you think. The auto format feature, which is the one I was dying to use, has actually turned out to be a little bit of a non-starter for me. The reason why is because it doesn't do enough of the page. If I'm writing out a big long script, it doesn't cover the whole script. It just covers a portion of it. It doesn't have the capacity to do the whole document, which I found a bit disappointing. The one I have used though is Summarize. This one can do the whole document, and I found it really useful to take all of the stuff that I've wrote down and being able to concisely put it into a few bullet points. From there, I can copy it out, I can send it off to someone and say, this is what I'm covering, or I can just keep it as a sort of concise remembering of what it is that I actually wrote and made for a specific video. The translate function is appreciated. I probably appreciate all of them, but I haven't used it, not once, in my day-to-day. Spelling and grammar is good because Samsung Notes doesn't have the red lines underneath a mistake, so you will need to use spelling and grammar to correct issues in Samsung Notes, especially for a large body of text. So I do use this on occasion to fix things in here, especially if it's something that I need to send off to someone. The one I've used by far is the AI in Samsung Internet. And there's only really one function in here out of the two that I use near on day to day. It's got the two features. It's got translate and summarize. Translate I have used sparingly if I'm translating a website from overseas and I need it to look in the format of the website. I found it very useful in that regard. But Summarize has been my most used one by a distance, and a comfortable distance. I love reading football match reports. I am obsessed with football in general. For me personally, opening up the website, seeing a long match report and potentially not having enough time to read it, having Summarize there to then just bring out the main information I need in a couple of different bullet points, perfect. There's the two options. Of the two, I prefer the detailed one because I sometimes like that little bit of extra context, and that gives me that. Whereas the shortened one doesn't give me enough potentially, but it's handy to have that option as well. It's very fast and allows me to save time reading a whole document, especially with kids around in my house. It's always good to move on to the next thing a little bit quicker so you're not just spending too much time on your phone. And then the live translate stuff. These features are interesting to me. It's such a powerful tool and I've loved demonstrating how it kind of can work, but it doesn't mean I've actually had the chance to use it in normal life, aside from demonstrations. The family members who I normally would probably use this with, who in Australia in particular, have unfortunately passed away. They speak Italian. And when I call people overseas, I use WhatsApp or Telegram, and this isn't part of those apps, so I can't use it. But for the right individual, I can absolutely see the use for this. In Australia, we live in a very multicultural country. A lot of people my generation, their grandparents came from overseas, and a lot of them don't necessarily speak a lot of English. So having this on board means that you can converse with them via phone, and each person can speak in their own native language. It's great and sort of bridges the gap between people and allows you to communicate. It's just unfortunate that I haven't had the chance to use it in my life as of yet. It's functionally good, if a little slow. When I did use it to call my dad, because he does speak Italian, he said and commented on the fact that it sort of got some things a little wrong as well, but on the whole, he was pretty happy with it and was happy to converse. Samsung keep adding languages too, which I know has been a frustration of some people that their language isn't supported, but I'm sure over time Samsung will keep rolling out more languages. Closely related to that is the interpreter, and I haven't had the chance to use this publicly yet, but I will very shortly. I'm going to Portugal and Italy very soon, and I don't speak Portuguese or Italian. So having the interpreter where I can download the language packs to it and then speak to people in a very comfortable way because of the UI that the interpreter app has means that I don't have to, one, rely on internet connection because the language packs are downloaded, and two, it's a very user-friendly interface that allows you to have one person on one side and one person on the other and converse very naturally. It is perfect for travel, so I'm going to be using this extensively when I'm overseas, and I might do a follow-up on how it worked. Let me know if you want that in the comments below. And the last one in here is the voice transcription in the voice recorder. This is another one where I wish I could take advantage of it because it is actually really good at what it does. I just at the moment have absolutely no need for it. Where I could have seen this being used in my previous life working in corporate was in meetings. Sitting down amongst a round table of people and everyone's sort of talking and conversing, and you want to capture that information, but then you also need to transcribe the meeting and potentially summarize like with meeting minutes. This can do all of that because not only does it separate via speaker, but then it also has the ability to summarize the transcription and then you can just copy that out and send it. And I really love that concept. I just, at the moment, have had no need to use it. I do know there are some people out there that actually use this to transcribe videos. So they'll play the voice recorder, let the video play, and then they can actually take that transcription and summarize the video that they've watched, which again is pretty clever. So that could be a use case for yourself if you're thinking about using it. But the main predominant reason is definitely for meetings. Absolutely. So with Galaxy AI being around for around about 4 months now, what do I really think about it? I think it's got some very useful and broad applications that can suit different needs at different times, but it definitely will not be for everyone. I also think, and I mentioned this earlier, that Samsung could prompt it a little better. It's definitely front and center when you first use the phone, but as time goes on, you kind of just forget about it and sort of disappears into the background. Whereas I think Samsung could put it in your face a little bit more frequently. Not everyone might appreciate that, but I think if we want to truly move this on and make this a thing, you probably need it to be more front and center, like typing on the keyboard. Come up with a prompt to say, hey, you can restylize this message and reformat it into something else and provide an example, and hit replace, and it's done without even needing to go into the toolbar. When you're in Samsung Notes, it could auto-generate a new format and say, hey, do you want to add this to a different note? This is what it will look like, rather than waiting for the toolbar to pop up and waiting for you to select it. Because the biggest part of AI is getting to demonstrate what it can do and how it can improve and change our behaviors with what we're doing. The other aspect, I think, which is sort of hanging over the head of Galaxy AI is the impending subscription. If Samsung put forward more services and then hid that behind the subscription paywall, but kept the existing stuff free, I think a lot of people would be accepting of that. But it just comes down to where that line gets drawn between subscription and free. I hope they keep the existing stuff as part of the free service offering, and then if anything does come up in terms of subscription package, that goes behind there, but it would have to be very good for that to happen. I'm definitely looking forward to where Galaxy AI can expand to. Let me know how you've been using Galaxy AI in your life in the comments below. Make sure you hit subscribe to SamMobile TV. Make sure you come follow us on all our socials. Visit our website, and we'll see you guys next time.